Hey everyone, I'm Karen Walby Solomon, and welcome to What's IGN Crushing On, IGN Africa's official entertainment podcast. I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by my producer and editor Rebecca Barches. So this is a show where we discuss all things entertainment and pop culture with a new guest every week. We bring recommendations, news, and fun facts, sometimes touching on the more serious issues surrounding these topics. This week's guest is Howard James Fyvie. He's a filmmaker and the creator of Cartoon Network Africa's new original production, Cartoon Network to the Rescue. It's a live-action sitcom that features Tapiwe Lemba, played by comedian Andre Lemba, who is Cartoon Network's greatest fan. And with the help of his cartoon friends and visits to his imagination room, filled with archives of his favorite Cartoon Network episodes, he solves daily household problems in surprising and imaginative ways. So we chatted about what inspires him, being a creative, and what series he thinks everyone should watch. And also stay tuned till the end of the episode when Rebecca and I play a Cartoon Network themed game, and you can let us know how you do if you had to play it. So here's our interview with Howard. So hi, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Karen. I'm good. Is it Karen? Is it
Yes,
Karen
it's Karen. Perfect. You're like the first person who's gotten my name right the first time.
Well, I'm good at that. I'm good at least one thing. Getting your name right.
So how have you been? Like how's 2020 been for you?
2020 has been probably one of the years I've worked the hardest. It's been like a very hard working, I basically need a holiday in a nutshell. Yeah, no, 2020 has been very busy. A lot of people in 2020, their jobs either like completely stopped or their jobs completely went into like steroids. And filmmaking is one of those things that suddenly people valued video content. They were like, wow, we can't meet face to face. We have to find another way. So I got really busy and just had to kind of hustle to keep things going. So I did a lot of work for my church. I go to this like crazy cool church in Cape Town, and I kind of did a lot of videos for them. And then halfway through the year, I got a phone call from Cartoon Network saying they want me to help out with this project. And then it's just been a manic year. But my wife is pregnant this year, so she fell pregnant.
Congratulations!
In lockdown, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, but besides that, like I'm still alive. How's it been for you? Has it been a good year?
It's been a tough year. It's been an interesting year, but I mean, the listeners know I lost my job, and then I started this up, and it's been very interesting and very fun, and it's been an experience. It's the best I can explain it.
Interesting.
So tell me more about you. Like, why did you decide to become a filmmaker?
I don't know if anyone ever decides to become a filmmaker. They get chosen. They have no choice. They get sucked into it. So basically, from a young age, I've really found make believe like fascinating, and the fact that you can just create stuff and like magicians and I also like love attention. So when I was like 6, I wanted to be an actor. I was like, because that's the first thing that I realized there was. I was like, I'd watch movies and I thought, okay, it's just these people on a screen. But then throughout the years, I discovered behind the scenes. And my dad one day brought home an old school camera when I was like 15 years old. And back in the day, it was like this big camera with like an actual floppy disk that would go into the camera. Yeah, so we're talking like a long time ago. And ever since then, I remember just running around in my garden filming like literally whatever I could film. And I taught myself how to edit using like some software I found on the internet. And then I just kind of got hooked and went to kind of debated whether or not to go to film school. And then kind of some people suggested just go. So I did. I went to AFTA in Cape Town. Still not quite sure if that was the right decision. But no, I mean, I think what the best thing that I got out of that was at least meeting some cool people from film school. And then, ever since then, I've just been kind of figuring this whole thing out. And I'm in my 30s now. I'm 33. And when in my 20s was like kind of the time when I I just really felt like I was kind of swimming upstream the whole time, trying to be noticed and trying to like do stuff that's going to get my name out there until like about 27 or 8 years old. I made this zombie movie called Last Ones Out. And then what that thing did was pretty much knock the ego out of me, because it, like, the movie went nowhere. Like, it was like it was a cool project. It was a crowd-funded zombie movie, but I was like, this is going to be my big ticket to like Hollywood, you know? And then after that film, it didn't go to Hollywood, and no one went to Hollywood, and the film's not the best movie. I mean, everyone was amazing, but the script, which I wrote, is really what let it down. But what was cool was that after that film, I started to appreciate filmmaking not as like what I can be recognized for, and not kind of like my identity, but more just about a beautiful expression of life and storytelling, but not linked to whether, even if it sucks, it shouldn't like kind of crush who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a transition moment for me, and then since then I've been working in a lot of different kinds of content, actually. So kids content and animation, and that opened up after like I had this epiphany of like, wow, I can just basically I don't need to be taken so seriously with filmmaking. I can do other fun stuff. And then I was like, well, let me just get involved in, you know, like kid stuff. And then that was actually how I got linked into, I suppose, comedy and Cartoon Network stuff. I know you didn't ask that for the whole journey of how I got here, but I just thought I'd answer it anyway. I preempted your question.
So what filmmakers are you inspired by?
The filmmakers I'm inspired by are very different to the content that I have and do work on. So I'm inspired by guys like James Cameron, who's the American film director who really pushes the envelope in like sci-fi and fantasy and stuff like this. And I really I love most of his movies. Like Avatar is his big one, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought Avatar was epic, and Spielberg. I mean, I'm inspired by Steven Spielberg. His like movies, kind of growing up as a kid, I was just always hooked on the spectacle and this like imagination that I found.
Yeah.
And then, but yet the stuff that I work on is like nothing nearly as epic as those guys' stuff. But what is interesting about Spielberg and James Cameron is that a lot of their content, they always keep in mind children when they're making it. They say like, if kids love it, then adults will love it as well. Well, not necessarily, but they basically say, don't forget kids when you're making your films. And so that's kind of interesting that I kind of tended to move towards that imagination stuff. And then I've got lots of different filmmakers and people that I love. Like probably a lot of them are like the stereotypical ones, like guys like Christopher Nolan, who did like Inception, and we won't speak about Tenet.
So do you not enjoy Tenet?
Yeah, I thought it's so lame. I thought that was like my lowest point in 2020. Like, I mean, COVID could come and go, but Tenet, I was like, what a disappointment. Yeah, no, I was bummed. Probably mainly because I couldn't hear anything in the cinema. Like, but yeah, and then I suppose M. Night Shyamalan used to be a massive influence of mine, of the Sixth Sense fame. I just loved how he would always have this epic twist until he became like lame. Yeah, Peter Jackson. I suppose, yeah, those are some of the offhand. George Lucas, like Star Wars. I mean, I'm just ticking all the big boxes here. I'm definitely not like this kind of super arty guy. I'm not going to give you answers like French New Wave directors. I don't even know their names. I can't even give you an example.
But a lot of the ones you mentioned as well are filmmakers who describe, just like you, that it's all like it's sort of in them. Like they have to make it. Like they're most comfortable when they're in front of a camera.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Another inspiration is Jordan Peele. You know Key and Peele, the comedy duo. So Jordan Peele's film Get Out, I thought it was brilliant. I hated his next movie, Us. But what I really love about Jordan Peele stuff is the comedy Key and Peele. I don't know if you've seen those. Like,
yeah, brilliant.
But yes, that's like yes. So of late, those are my new heroes. Those two guys.
So tell me, what would you say has been like your highlights in your career thus far? Like highlights for you personally?
Does getting married count? I suppose it's not really part of my career, right?
But
So yeah, I've had like lots of wonderful experiences. I think so. My answer, like as you were asking me the question, what I really felt coming to the surface was the fact that I've arrived at a place now where my and this is going to get super deep for a moment. Here we go, kids. Where my identity is no longer directly linked to the content that I produce. Like that's like the highlight of my career at the moment. It sounds kind of weird, but so often, like, and I'm sure you can attest to this as well, creatives, like what we make is kind of like who we are. So if somebody's like, if you paint a picture and they're like, I don't like that picture, then you feel like they don't like me. And so most of my, like I was mentioning, like 20s and early teens was always like trying to find like validation in the work that I was doing, until I think in one sense, like God kind of like led me out of that and showed me the short-sightedness of that. And I found like freedom. And now I'm like, wow, rad. Like, so that's been one of the highlights on a kind of a metaphysical level. But then practical stuff, like actual achievements. I'm always entering competitions, by the way. Competitions are great. So if anyone's listening and they're like, how do I get into stuff? Find competitions and enter them. We entered the Triggerfish Disney competition that happened in 2015. And out of like 1,700 people across the continent of Africa, they chose 30 young scriptwriters or emerging scriptwriters or whatever. And I was one of those shortlisted for that, plus my mate Andrew. And that was a 1 week of kind of like intensive, just like exposure to script writing. And they brought down some American scriptwriter lady who was amazing. And we just sat at the Triggerfish Animation Ranch down the road here in Cape Town and got to like watch movies and get taught on script writing and brainstorm stuff very quickly and come up with concepts and ideas. And I met like 30 other young filmmakers. And that was such a peaceful and fulfilling experience, And then from there we went on to make animation, and that's actually how I got into this whole like children's thing. Literally through entering that one competition. And the only reason I entered that competition was because I no longer I thought like, because like my work wasn't like kind of had to be so serious, I opened my options up to like other kinds of work. I was like, yeah, I could do like funny stuff, and that's when I entered the animation. Had I not gone through that process, I would have like always thought like, no, I've got to take myself more seriously and make like serious arty films or whatever.
So do you think that, as you said, like being a creative, we always like connect our self-worth to our work. And do you think that like, breaking that kind of made you more creative? Like you could 100%. Engage with your creativity better. So as a creative,
definitely
important for people to kind of like make that separation.
I mean, I think it's the fundamental thing in creativity, because not only like are you going to make better work, but you're going to probably like be more sane. It's a very difficult thing though. So I mean, and I'm like, wow. Although I do feel like I've definitely come like leaps and bounds ahead. Like I think it's something you've always got to go back to, because if you want your like validation to come from something that you make, it's very shallow, it's very fragile. That thing can just get smashed like in a moment. And so, to creatives out there, you definitely need to find something much more secure and kind of eternal to hang your identity on. I always use the picture of a coat hanger. I'm like, what are you going to hang your identity on? Like, is it the work you do? Because that's going to, let you down. Is it like a relationship? It's probably also going to let you down. So like for me, it is hanging it on like God but I had to kind of get there by like failing a lot. Like, so I failed like so many times, like 10 years of like lame stuff, until like, I think I kind of understood the picture. But and the other important thing for creative people is kind of being free to experiment enough to find your own voice. And that's one of the things that everyone always talks about, like find your voice. And I thought I found that. I was like, I found my voice. Woohoo. Like, in my 20s. And I still don't really know what my voice is, but all I will say is that by trying lots of different things, by that I mean I've made like 30 or 40 short films on YouTube and on Vimeo and like all around, like multiple short films, made a feature film, like a live action feature. I've made like multiple little animations for Cartoon Network and other companies, and 100 corporate videos and thousands of wedding videos and all kinds of things. But like the more of those things that you do, you start to discover like what your voice sounds like. And then your friends will tell you. So with this most recent project, my one mate came up to me and he said, Brew, this project really feels like it's kind of got like a Howard Fyvie feel to it, a flavor. And that was great for me. I was like, yeah, I agree. I also feel like it's closer to what, if you had to prick me, my blood would flow out. What would that blood look like kind of creatively? And I think I'm finding it a bit closer.
So tell me about Cartoon Network to the Rescue. Like, what is it about? Or let the listeners know.
Dear listeners, Cartoon Network to the rescue. Promo plug about to start. Cartoon Network, it's a zany, funny, little crazy kind of live action Cartoon Network TV show. And there's 7 episodes. They're about 10 minutes long each. Sometimes a little bit shorter. And it's this kind of Eddie Murphy infused like sitcom mixed with like a bit of African culture. And a bit of slap chic. I like to call it slap chic. It's kind of like not quite slapstick, but it's like it's like one level up. Where it's African slap chic, and it's one actor is playing all the characters, which gets really fun. And he's an incredibly talented young actor named Andre Lembo, and it's every episode basically is where the main character, who's this like Dennis the Menace-esque guy, gets himself into a lot of trouble, drags his nerdy, reluctant brother into the trouble with him. And then the mom's like, if you don't fix this trouble by the time I get home from work, like, you're dead. And then that's how every episode pretty much starts. And by the time she gets home from work, they've either fixed the problem or they haven't. And then consequences like roll out after that. And there's also this like all-seeing granny character named Gogo, who just like sits there the whole time like and chuckles to herself whenever the boys kind of get into trouble. So it's pretty rad. And it's like a fun adventure. They go into every time there's this problem, they go into his imagination world where he finds an answer from Cartoon Network, hence the title. So he's like, it's kind of almost like an encyclopedia where all he knows is Cartoon Network stuff because he's the biggest fan ever. So it's like, imagine like if suddenly your Wi-Fi breaks and you're like, how do I fix this? And he'll go into Cartoon Network, go through all the episodes that have ever existed mentioning Wi-Fi, and he'll find one that can solve his problem. But because he's kind of often like impatient and zany and he doesn't really read the picture properly, so he'll be like, oh, okay, we can fix the Wi-Fi by like, I don't know, milking a cow. I got it. But it actually wasn't milking a cow. It's supposed to be like, like, I don't know, buying a glass of milk or something. Just a random example. Hey, maybe I could put this down for season 2. And then his brother or the granny will come and like give him the real answer. And they'll be like, didn't you mean this? And then he's like, oh, quickly. And he's got to quickly solve it before his mom comes back.
So how did you come up with the ideas for the episodes?
Myself and my co-writer, Andrew, we did a brainstorming walk through Century City, Canal Walk here in Cape Town during lockdown one evening. Cause like we couldn't meet anywhere because it's lockdown. So we literally parked in the car park and we went like walking around like 5 times. We walked on the roof of the mall. And what we did was we asked ourselves, like, what are some fundamental problems that kids get stuck in? And so we thought like you can get bored all day. Like that's one example. Or like load shedding. That's another example. Or like when your mom buys something very expensive, but then you break it. So that's another example. So that was the TV. The mom buys this fancy TV. Or if your mom orders you to make dinner and like you don't know how to make dinner and you hate that. Or your mom tells you to clean up the house and it's like really a big mess. So we just use things that we would relate to. But we're 2 white dudes. So I roped in Andre, who's like a Angolan-born Congolese ethnic, now South African black dude. And I was like, hey, Andre, I've got like these kind of raw materials for episodes, but how do I make them like live in your experience as well? So then he took them and we kind of actually had a chat just at my house here. And I read him through my ideas that me and Andrew spoke through. And then he would be like, nah. My mom would never say that. Make it more like this. And so each episode kind of went through Andre's filter of like making it more relevant to like an African audience. Because we really wanted like some little African kid sitting in Cameroon watching this thing. And as they see it on screen, they're like, yes, that's exactly what my mother would say. We want that kind of response. But yet I don't want it to be so like alienating to other parts of the continent or the world. So we had to have that like those universal issues, like, you break something very expensive, but then with an African filter. So that's kind of how we came up with those.
Wow. So how difficult was it to film? Like, number one is lockdown, and number 2 was like, aren't you playing all the different characters?
Yeah, it was a mission. Yeah, it was a mission, eh? I mean, I think the main reason why it was a mission was this whole thing started as a very short piece of content. My original pitch was actually only going to be 2 minutes long, like each episode. But after the script writing process, I kind of like enlarged it to 8 minutes long. And so basically we had to pack 4 times the amount of content into the same budget and the same schedule. And so like
Sure.
we had one day to shoot each episode. And so, Cartoon Network was amazing. They were like, yeah, cool, like go for it. Like you can make them longer, like not a problem at all. And I really wanted the content to be a bit longer. So basically it came down to speed, like really rushing through stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that we just didn't get perfect, but we got it close enough. And so that was tricky. And then trying to figure out how to shoot multiple actors. I've done that with myself. Like I also sometimes act around and I've filmed myself playing multiple characters before. So I've got a bit of background in that. But it's always tricky, like no matter what. Lockdown, we ended up having to shoot at my house. So we shot right here, converted my like house into this kind of like African aesthetic. And then we had a super tight little tiny crew, kind of my style, like how I like to work. And this is one of the things I've like graduated into understanding, and like I've accepted it. Like I was saying, like I now found my voice. So I plan 50% and then I improvise 50%.
Okay.
Like that's usually when I'm at my sweet spot. And maybe there's other creators listening and they're like, yeah, cool, I want to do that as well. Like find the process that will get the best results for you. So what that means is I've got a script, and like we've written the script, and we've got like a call sheet and a schedule, and I've got a rough idea. But on the day, I'm expecting 50% of other awesome things to happen as we're shooting. So we'd be shooting, and then like for instance, there's one sequence when the mom slams the door, and on the back of the door there's a little photograph of Cyril Ramaphosa, and then it falls to the ground and smashes. So that was just improvised on the day. As she slammed the door, I saw the painting. I was like, imagine if the photograph falls to the ground and smashes. So then we made it fall to the ground and smash. And then I was like, wait, imagine if it falls to the ground and smashes, but then Cyril Ramaphosa speaks like through the photograph. So like that's what we did, and like that happened a lot. So in that sequence, the mom's shouting at Tups and saying like, you better make us dinner by 5 p.m. She slams the door, the painting falls, and then Cyril's mouth goes, and don't forget to wash the dishes, and like that kind of stuff is often one of the joys of like being able to improvise a little bit. So I like to keep things loose, but you got to know where you're going. So that happened throughout the shooting process, and with our small crew, it's easy to improvise because you can just change direction easily. The bigger the crew, the more tricky it is to change direction. So, yeah, all in all, it was a difficult shoot, but like a joyful one. I mean, anything worth doing is going to probably be a little bit difficult.
So how much research did you have to do to know which Cartoon Network episodes and like what shows to use?
Yeah, a fair amount. Eh? We Google YouTube became a close friend. So what we would do is for each episode, we would just YouTube like that theme. So for instance, there's one called Training Day where he gets trained up to be the best table tennis player of all time or in all of Africa. And then we just like YouTubed Cartoon Network training episodes, Cartoon Network table tennis episodes, and went through stacks of those and try to find some that could work for our sequence. That was also difficult. Like, and then once we found them, we would mold the script a little bit around those. So next time, if there's a season 2 of this or whatever, I need to get a whole like research department to go and really find those episodes because there's a lot you could do with it.
And so what is it like working with your crew and I was going to say cast, but you only had Andre. But I mean, like, what is the experience like?
I've got a kind of tight bunch of people that I've worked with regularly before in Cape Town throughout the many years. So I roped in a few of those guys and then also a few new faces. And, it was my first time working with Andre and he was phenomenal. But what was funny was that, so I also go to the same church as Andre, and like I'm kind of super chilled and like cracking jokes and stuff at church. But then you saw me on film set, and I was totally in business mode. I was like very strict and like very decisive because we had to be with with a tight schedule. So the first few days, everybody was like, yo, who's this Howard? He's like a different person. So they were like all scared of me. But then like halfway through, once I knew we were making our days and our footage was looking good, I started to relax it a little bit more and crack more jokes. And then they were all like, okay, like it's back to normal. But everyone else was cracking jokes all the time and like working very hard, like exceptionally hard. Like for instance, getting to set or to my house at like 6:45 every day, and then we shoot until 7 p.m. wrap, maybe, and we had dinner in the evenings together. So we'd all eat together, like 8 of us, and the tables were outside because there was no space in the house. So we all sit outside and eat dinner, and then people would have to drive home, some as far as Stellenbosch. So they'd drive all the way home, get home at like 9, and then repeat. And that lady who was living in Stellenbosch was also our caterer, so she would have to go and then make food as well for the next morning. So it was nuts. So like, yeah, the guys worked really hard, which is awesome. And I think the show looks good in the end.
So how important do you think it is that, that we have such a variety of local content being made on these channels that we all grown up and loved so much?
Yeah, I think it's probably as important as we want to like see the world change. It's like, it's lame. I mean, it's so weird. Like we're so used to hearing American accents, and there's nothing wrong with American accents. Those are great. But when like, yeah, it's like a default. It's even a default for me. Like I try to like, if I'm doing any impersonations, I always have like this American accent coming into my head because I only ever heard American accents associated with high production value as a kid. I heard other accents, but often it didn't have that same production value. So when we introduce more local content at a high level of production, because there is a lot of local content out there, but as you say, it's not on the recognizable channels. It's more like sometimes on like a lower production value. Then in your mind, you kind of associate local with like low value. But to see something endorsed by a big channel that's hyper local, as they call it, like I think it's great. Like it's gonna, I'd love for guys to not have to try and impersonate United States all the time. We can impersonate ourselves, and we can figure out our own voices. But it's difficult to get that right, though. I found in South Africa, at least, is that most of the time, at least maybe in the English-speaking subculture, is that people only really take something seriously that is local once it's been endorsed by internationals.
Yeah.
Like Neil Blomkamp as the example of District 9. I mean, a talented, genius filmmaker, also one of the guys I look up to. But because Peter Jackson, international film director, endorsed him, then all of the South Africans were like, cool, he's probably really good. But if he'd been endorsed by a South African, we would have been like, who cares? So there's definitely that mindset there, which I don't know if it's necessarily something will ever really change. But I think as long as, we can see high quality local content, I think it'll also help future filmmakers feel like they can make hyper local content as well.
Yeah, it'll also probably help them see more value, like there's something to achieve, like something you can, strive for.
Totally.
So what would you still like to do?
I would still like to, you mean in my entire life?
Well, I mean,
because I'm like, I'd like to have a child and lose 4 kilograms.
I mean, like in your career.
Who knows what will ever end up happening, but I still have loads of thousands of dreams. Like my list is endless. One of the cool things I would love to do is be part of a team that creates a character that like kind of gets absorbed into popular culture. Something like, when like Luke Skywalker or SpongeBob or Mickey Mouse or whatever it is, but like a really cool character. That's like a random kind of goal of mine. Who knows? Maybe it'll be Tapiwe from a Cartoon Network to the rescue that ends up doing that. And then I think I would love to make another feature film at some stage. So I made one in 2015, but probably get a proper script going and a bigger crew. And then I enjoy like comedy. So if I could find one of the things like with a cool feature film I'd like to do one day is make a film where the genre changes like about 3 or 4 times in the movie. So maybe it starts as like a drama, but then like as soon as the woman like kind of breaks up with her husband or whatever, like he turns into an alien, and then like the audience is like, wait, what the heck? I thought this was a drama. And then like halfway through it becomes like a horror movie where the alien like is like killing her, and then it becomes a comedy again. I don't know.
It's like very Jordan Peele.
Yeah, there we go. A bit of Jordan Peele. As you can see, that's why I love what he's doing. And then I also do music. I also create a kind of like a filmmaker by day, music artist by night. So I'm currently working on another little album, which is on Spotify under my surname Fyvie. So I'd like to do more of that. It's just a cool creative outlet for me. Being able to make kind of like synth pop music, which I just enjoy. I suppose for now, being able to be part of Star Wars, sign me up. I'll direct the next Star Wars movie. That'd be great. One other thing is also to produce an animation TV show, which I've got kind of lined up. So,
okay, that's amazing.
We've put together a pilot. So when I say lined up, I mean it's kind of right now. It's like no one's like bought it yet or bit the bait. But I'd love to see that thing come to life. It's called The B Team. It's about these bunch of losers who solve crimes once no one else wants to solve them. They're like, let's call it The B Team. Give it to The B Team. Everyone else is on lunch. Anyway.
So what are your favorite cartoons growing up?
I loved loads of. I love Captain Planet. Assume that thing was amazing. Captain Planet was like, and now I'm giving away my age. It's 33. I love Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Ed, and Eddie, Recess, 101 Dalmatians. I didn't have Mnet as a kid, so I never really got to watch all the fancy stuff. I remember they had Animaniacs on Mnet, and I could never watch it, and I was like, "What is Animaniacs?" That kind of stuff. So I could never. I kind of didn't get into that. But cartoon-wise, I even loved old school stuff like Thundercats, which was more like kind of adventure. The Batman animation series. So those were some of the things that I enjoyed cartoon-wise. I used to love watching cartoon. Was it called Cartoon Cafe?
Oh, me too. On SBC One.
Yeah, SBC One. I'd come home at 2:00.
That's the only thing I was look forward to that.
Cartoon Cafe. And they're like, was that on YoTV or something?
Yes, it was on YoTV.
I used to watch that, and I was like, cool. And I'd come home from school and warm up a little mistaken mushroom pie, and then sit there and watch Cartoon Cafe, and I'd be so amped. So those were good memories, and so all of those cartoons that are on there. I know there's one main one that I used to love, but I just can't remember right now. But I'll put it on my status one day.
But it's similar to taps and stuff like that. Cartoons. It's kind of because you watch it when you're so young, it becomes sort of part of your personality.
Yeah, it's formative.
Yeah. So do you think that also how inspired you when making?
Yeah, I guess so. It's so. I love cartoons because they're so imaginative. It's it's just someone's imagination that's kind of got unbridled and unplugged, and it can just go nuts. And so I think a lot of, even in the design of a lot of cartoons, I'm always kind of alluding back to the 90s and the stuff that I used to watch, because it's kind of what formed and became a part of me. And the humor and the slapstickness of a lot of that kind of gets brought into my stuff now. But I love some modern day stuff, although it's not too new. But Gumball is my current favorite cartoon show. I just love what they've done with Gumball. It's phenomenal. I don't know if you've checked it out.
I haven't seen it.
And then Mao Mao is another one. He's this cat from Japan or something, or China, and he's that's great as well. So there are some new cartoons that are ticking a lot of boxes.
So what with regards to series and that kind of stuff, what do you recommend that everybody should watch? What are your favorites?
Watch them all. That's a great question. It's funny. Here's a weird thing about me is that I love kind of goofing around and making light-hearted content for work. But then what I like watching is the opposite. So I like watching more heavy and drama, thriller stuff. So which is just strange, but that's just how it is. That's why I was saying I don't mind. I enjoyed watching Jordan Peterson's Get Out. Not Jordan Peterson, Jordan Peele. Get Out. It's quite heavy, this horror movie. So my series that I have enjoyed lately are way more kind of heavy. An amazing one is The Crown on Netflix. If you haven't seen The Crown, you have to watch it. It's just the best. That's probably my top. That was probably my top show. I didn't love season 3 as much, but season 1 and 2, I was yo. Then my most favorite standalone series ever, kind of limited series with only 5 episodes, happened to be Chernobyl, set in the Russian town that exploded with that nuclear power plant. I was like sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was like, what is this? So check out Chernobyl. And then, I mean, what else have I been watching? Actually, so cartoon-wise, it's a little bit dark and cynical, but Rick and Morty, I think, is like one of the best scripted, like the dialogue in that show. Like I know the soul of the show is very cynical, but the dialogue is so brilliant. I think it's the best written dialogue in a long time. And then what else is on there that I've been watching lately? I suppose that's a good place to start.
And movies, what are your like ultimate favorites?
My favorite would be probably The Truman Show. As an old school like throwback movie. I just love the originality of that. Then my favorite epic would be Braveheart. I loved just this passion that the main character has inside of him. My literal favorite film that's on cinema right now, like if you had to ask me what have I watched lately, was a movie called Greenland with Gerard Butler, about like this meteorite that hits Earth and then they all die. Basically, it's a disaster movie. Very cool though. I was like expecting like a lame B movie, and I got like a cool cinematic experience. So that's like literally I watched it last week. I enjoy, like I said, sci-fi stuff. So the movie Arrival, I found like
brilliant,
beautiful. That sci-fi film. I was like, this is proper. So that's kind of the movies that I like. I'm taken by. Like Arrival was amazing, and a lot of kind of, I wouldn't say smart sci-fi because I'm not really that smart, but I would say like cinematically emotive sci-fi. So Blade Runner for me was the new one, was amazing as well. I really enjoyed that. And then give me a seckie. I loved A Quiet Place by John Krasinski of The Office fame. So if you haven't seen A Quiet Place, that's like my favorite thriller horror at the moment, where no one's allowed to speak, and if you speak, you get eaten by the monster. Kind of like detention at high school. It's like the same thing. So I love that. And then I love stuff like, I love the movie Inside Out by Pixar. Yes. I was like, what a brilliant movie. I was like crying. I was like, it was amazing. And Toy Story, my other all-time favorite would be Toy Story 1. That movie like changed my childhood. I went to go watch that on the big screen with my dad. And afterwards, I just was like, I am Woody. I am Buzz. To infinity. I just like, for the rest of my life, walked around like being a toy. So yeah, Toy Story was epic. Finding Nemo is also one of my top films. Like I just love the score, and in that movie, like the music is just breathtaking. And all I do when I'm editing and writing scripts on my computer is I stream the music from Finding Nemo. I play it in the background the whole time. Like, wow, this is amazing. Thomas Newman. I just like listen to it all day long. So yeah, those are like kind of a little one or two of the films. I think that it's kind of a cool question. It's almost like, what are the films that have made you? Star Wars would be in there as well, obviously. And my latest greatest series, I knew there was one I was forgetting, is The Mandalorian. It's the Star Wars series.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet, but I've heard like such great things.
Yeah, it's really something else. It's basically corrected all the wrongdoing of Star Wars in the past like 5 years, or whenever The Force Awakens came out. Because a lot of the fans, myself included, like were disappointed with the trajectory of Star Wars, and then The Mandalorian came along, and it was just like, okay, we forgive you. Just give us more Mandalorian. So that's honestly been my like thoughts about Star Wars, The Mandalorian. At least it's a great series. You should check it out.
Do you think do you think that the Star Wars universe translates well into TV?
Yes, I absolutely 100%. Like I would have thought it wouldn't have done well, and then I saw The Mandalorian. It's all about who the team is, though. It's about the minds and the hands that create the content. So you can have the worst minds on a project, and it'll stuck, and you can have the greatest minds, and it'll be awesome, no matter what medium it goes on. TV, film, web series. I think you got to get that right team. And it's difficult to get a team that just gels and creatively they can inspire each other, and you're on the right track with your narrative. But when those things all come together and they align, then you end up with something truly special.
Okay.
Like Cartoon Network to the rescue. Check it out, kids.
Okay, my last question before we do the final plug. But so this is a question we ask everybody. But who is your first celebrity crush?
My first celebrity crush. Jeez, I must have been young. I'm trying to think. So what's interesting is no face actually jumps into my mind when you first asked me that. It would probably have been, and I don't know if this is really a celebrity, but it would have been Jasmine from the movie Aladdin, the animated Aladdin.
You get a lot of animated characters.
Because obviously I was a kid, and so Jasmine, I mean, I loved Aladdin as well. I was like, that movie was like up there with Toy Story. And then afterwards I was always like, wow, maybe one day I'll have a little Jasmine to marry of my own. So yeah, it would have been Jasmine. And in the end, I didn't end up marrying an Arabian wife. I married a wife from Port Elizabeth, but hey, she's just as good, probably even better.
So so tell the listeners when and how they can watch Cartoon Network to the Rescue.
Yeah, guys, you can check out Cartoon Network starting this Saturday on YouTube. So check out cartoonnetworkafrica.com and make sure you bring your popcorn, turn up your volume, and enjoy.
Thank you so much for joining us. This was really great.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, hey, and pleasure. Oh, and guys can hear my I'm about to carry on writing my next song, so they can hear the album as well if they're up for it.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
That was our interview with Howard James Fyvie. You can find him at Fives Alive on Instagram. You can find his music on Spotify at Fyvie. And you can watch Cartoon Network to the Rescue on Cartoon Network Africa's YouTube channel right now. We'll provide the links to everything discussed in the show notes and on the website. So, Rebecca.
Hey.
Tell me about this Cartoon Network game.
So here's a game that I thought you might enjoy after this interview. It's more of a quiz, so you just have to give me the answer, and they are.
I don't know if I told you, but just like Howard in the interview, I never had DSTV growing up. So most of this knowledge will be based on like rare moments in hotel rooms growing up, or like visits to friends' houses. Because I only got DSTV when I was like grade 9. So when I was what I watched since the age of 15, what I've watched with babysitting, and pop culture. So let's just see how well I do. But I mean,
okay. No, I think you'll do well. I mean, I would still consider that a good number of years. Okay. So the questions are: in the Cartoon Network series Dexter's Laboratory, what is the name of Dexter's sister?
I know this, Dee Dee. I know this because I like a comic book theme birthday party when I was 9, and one of my friends came dressed up as Dee Dee. So that's why I know.
Was she blonde and lanky and a little silly?
I don't know about lanky, but she was blonde and she was a little silly. And she had the 2 like ponytail hootiches.
The next question: Mojo Jojo is the villain from which Cartoon Network series?
Powerpuff Girls. Whoop whoop.
Do you remember the theme song? Well, how does it go? No, they do the sugar, spice. And everything nice.
I love Powerpuff Girls. It was like my show. But
which one were you? Which one did you always think you were? Or which
Blossom.
One did you? Oh, why do you like? Wait, how do you not know this, Rebecca? Blossom.
No, because obviously I would be the leader.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I was always the one with the black hair. Because she was a bit too weird.
She was not.
Oh yeah, that's why.
But I because we never had this, I was like obsessed with Powerpuff Girls. Every year my parents and I would go away to like a hotel, but it used to be like lovely hotel, maybe to like Montague Springs or something like that. And then everybody will be in the pool or outside. It's the middle of summer. No, where's Karen? Karen is inside. Being like, I'm gonna enjoy this DSTV that I never get, and watching Powerpuff Girls. This is a good story. Okay, next question.
Ooh, what is the name of the character who created the Powerpuff Girls?
Professor X.
No, so you've got yourself Professor Uranium, you've got yourself a Dr. Plutonium, and then a Professor Utonium. I think it's the third one, isn't it?
I don't know, Professor something. The Professor.
And then the final question is, what is your top Cartoon Network show?
My top Cartoon Network show is 100% Powerpuff Girls. But it also feels very like generic. But that was like, but that was the
Classic.
show. Yeah, that's the show that I grew up with.
Yeah.
I also really like Johnny Bravo. But like now when you look back, you're like, why did I like this show so much?
Yeah.
And then I think I wanted to keep
With
me
confidence.
Yeah, no, and I must say that I think Howard has brought this up, but like I hated Ed and Eddie, and I still hate it to this day. If anyone like, that's my hot take. It was so annoying. Those boys worked on my nerves.
Yeah.
If Ethan was watching it, I would like leave the room. Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
Take it. What is your favorite Cartoon Network show?
I used to love Courage the Cowardly Dog, but more so I actually enjoyed Dexter's Lab. Because he was such an oddball. And I liked the comedy in there was quite good.
But did you have like, what is your favorite like Nickelodeon shows?
What name one?
SpongeBob is Nickelodeon. Drake and Josh and that kind of stuff is Nickelodeon.
Okay, well then I'm gonna say SpongeBob because it's the only one that I know.
Because I know, like, I mean, growing up, I feel like we had Boomerang and Cartoon Network, and then this is basically what I know from babysitting. Because as I said, I never had it growing up, but like I know. And then we got Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and CBBS.
I watched SpongeBob up until the age of 2 nights ago.
I think that SpongeBob is really good though. Like, I mean, I think there's a lot of children's shows that I could watch over and over again, but that's one show that I can pick it up at any time, and I know I will enjoy an episode. I'll enjoy an episode. I will laugh at it. I do have quite a few. Like I do like Fairly Odd Parents as well on Disney Channel.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Show.
Yeah.
To me, like there are certain, if you enjoy a show and there's certain lines that sort of become part of your vocabulary. I have so many from Fairly Odd Parents. And I also
like what?
Like we do. There's an episode where Timmy gets this watch. And he wishes one of the Fairly Odd Parents to be like a watch, and it was Cosmo. And then the watch allows him to sort of like go back in time.
Okay.
Like go back. And then every time he goes back in time, Cosmo shouts, redo, like redo. But like it happens so many times in the episode. Like, and then there's this one scene where the father is like saying like, oh, they're gonna leave Timmy with Vicky because they're gonna go watch his dolphin. They goes, and then like he makes this kind of like squiggly thing with his mouth. The first time I watched it, I was actually with our mutual friend Natasha. And we were watching that, and I swear to God, two of us were crying, and they kept on showing that one part of the scene all the time, one part of the episode. And ever since I've seen it, I've seen that episode millions of times since then.
Yeah,
every time it makes me laugh. But I've also so that's a top fave of mine. I also really like Phineas and Ferb. I think I've seen 8 episodes, seen the movie.
Yeah.
I would probably watch it all again. I think it's solid comedy. It's brilliant.
Yeah. What I find so interesting is that you're still to this day, we're well past our teens, and I would still go and sit down and watch exactly what we're still talking about now. I'd still go sit down and watch Fairly Odd.
That's what I think a good show is. A good show, it doesn't necessarily mean for children or for adults, something that, I mean, whereas I do think something should be for adults, but I mean, like, it has it has a universal appeal. I know I'm like kind of taking the question and going a bit far with it, but I mean, even with regards to like live action children shows, I did enjoy, obviously when I was small, I enjoyed like Drake and Josh, the Amanda Show. They used to come on KTV. That kind of stuff.
Please, is it that one?
Please, yeah. Please. And all that I loved. Keenan and Carl. Did you watch Keenan and Carl?
Oh my gosh, Keenan and Carl, classic. Who loves orange soda? Right? It's that one, right?
Yes, that one.
Okay.
And then even as I grew up, like I enjoyed Anna Montana, was a Waverly Place, Sunny with a Chance. A lot of those Disney Channel shows, but also iCarly, brilliant. so funny. I didn't watch.
I
A lot of people watch like Victorious and stuff. I got a bit too old for that. I aged out of that. But
What
I
is
don't know.
this?
Victorious with Victoria Justice.
Okay.
But no, iCarly I enjoyed. There was like episodes that I like search for, like trying because I loved it so much.
Who's in iCarly now again?
iCarly's the girl from Drake and Josh, Miranda.
Okay.
Something, I don't know. Cosgrove, Miranda Cosgrove.
Nice. See, this is
I actually think you would enjoy iCarly.
Okay. I'll put it on my list. What I did actually put on my list and what I actually got to watch was The Good Place.
Oh,
and I watched a few episodes, and by a few episodes, I actually finished all 4 seasons this week. I put it on in the background while I was working. But yeah, it's I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did. But yeah, I'm glad that you suggested I watch it.
I haven't seen it, but
who suggested it?
Lebo spoke about it on this episode.
Okay.
I feel like other people might have.
Yeah.
But I know that he definitely spoke about it.
But what have you been watching this week?
This week, I watched Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. I don't know if you remember back when Sloan was on the show, he mentioned it. But it recently started up on DSTV. And it's a TV series. And what happens, it's basically this girl. I don't know if you watched Suburgatory.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the main girl named Jane Levy. Jane Levy. That sounds right. Jane Levy. She's basically like this computer coder, and she's trying to get a promotion. Her boss is Lauren Graham, Lola Gilmore, and she's like trying to get this promotion. She's very close to the family. Her mom is played by Mary Steenburgen, who's Ted Danson's wife in real life. And Peter Gallagher, who was Sandy Cohen in the OC. So they always do this like reference back. These are the actors. This is what they've been. This is how I talk.
Yes. No, it does help me as well because I have no idea most of the time what you're talking about.
So she close to parents, and her father has this like disorder type thing. He's ill, and what happens is she goes for MRI, and there's an earthquake while she's doing an MRI, and when she comes back out, all of a sudden, people are singing, but like they are breaking out into song.
Oh my gosh!
But it's not real. It's just like sort of in her head, and
in her mind, yeah.
Yeah, but it's also like she can read their thoughts type thing. But it's not like What Women Want, where she's like, whether she's hearing like, oh my gosh, I feel like a hamburger. She's hearing like a full song about hamburgers. Like, but it's like it's not like new songs. So it's a like glee, and that there's people breaking out into song all the time. It has a very like. It's quite heartwarming as well because her father has this illness, he can't really speak. So the way that he can sort of demonstrate what he's thinking to her is through these songs in her head that she's now.
Oh, that's sweet.
And the songs in her head sort of like lets her know how the people around her is feeling, so it allows her to become more empathetic to their emotions and to reach out more.
Wow.
And it's lovely. Like it's like such, and I know it might not be for everybody.
Awesome.
I love musicals. Give me a musical any time of the day. I love it. Also, love Jane Levy. I love that entire cast. And it's just the songs are liquor. It's like popular songs. It's the choreography won an Emmy. The guy from Pitch Perfect, Skylar Aston, the main guy from Pitch Perfect.
Okie dokes.
In Anna Kendrick's boyfriend in there. Do you remember? Anyway, he plays he's like her best friend in there, and he's like a really good performer. He's like pure Broadway, you can see, and it's just so well done, and I enjoy it. And it was such a lovely show. So for anybody who wants to watch, it is currently available on DSTV now. First 2 episodes, by the time this comes out, first 2 episodes. So it's really worth checking out. Like I would. And I'm so glad I did. I miss it though. Like I really want to watch it again. Like, I love it. Anyway, yeah. I do have a review coming out soon on Channel 24 for anyone who wants to know more. But yeah, that's all from us. Me, you can find at Karen Welby on Instagram. at KarenWellBees with an S on Twitter, and sign up for my newsletter Wilder Streams at wilderstreams.substack.com. The podcast can be found at @CrushingOnPod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find more information about this and all our other episodes at our website, crushingonpodcast.com, and send any feedback to crushingonpod@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group, Crushing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. Let us know what you think about what was discussed in this week's episode by sending us a voice note or email to crushingonpod@gmail.com. The show is produced by me, Karen, and Rebecca Barches. The show is edited and engineered by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Latifa Maroof. And the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can any way that you can. Keep up to date with all our episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then!